One thing I want to cover really quickly is be careful about ridiculous claims. And what I'm talking about is, I'm not going to put the box in the frame here. Let's just put the Mark 23. There's some channels, and one in particular, I'm not going to name the guy, I'm not going to call him out. He's a military guy, so I'm going to give him that much respect as not to do that. And I'm not going to call the kid a liar. However, I will say there's a stress for people out there to legitimize the reliability of their firearm, because in all honesty, there's a bunch of us out there that are like, well, how reliable is it? How many rounds you got through it? How many times you took it to the range? Like, their experience matters to us. Like, that's somehow going to translate into our firearms, you know? Because his Glock 19 ran 10,000 rounds and he only changed the recoil spring assembly, that yours is going to do the same exact thing, you know? And that's just not how it works. I've seen wonder guns that are supposed to be the best thing on the planet have issues right out of the gate, like right out of the box. And then I've seen some that are the worst gun on the planet, like Rugers and guns that just have had horrible track records, Kel-Tecs, all sorts of stuff. I've seen someone buy it, take it out of the box, clean it, run it, never had an issue. So with all that said, I know not everybody does this, and this, I'm not going to lie to you, this is something I've been worried about for a while, and it wasn't that YouTube channel, but when someone's like, oh, this is my gun post 90,000 rounds, or this is my review post 28,000 rounds, like, a lot of people don't really understand that that is thousands and thousands of dollars of ammunition. Just do the math for bottom of the barrel 308, 28,000 rounds and 12,000 rounds, and do bottom of the barrel 5.56 55 grain tool ammo, 60,000 rounds, and you tell me what that comes out to. So what I do is I have these. Now they're super cheap off HK's website. They'll make them, they'll sell out, it looks like they're not there anymore, and then they'll bring them back. These weapon record books are priceless, because what you do is, let me hide my name real quick. You have dates, rounds spent, and then you can keep a log so you know when to change the parts. And then, you know, I put little notes in there. And it's a nice book because that's how it's set up. And you can keep track. And you don't need one of these books. They're great to have, but you don't need this. My whole point is, don't feel like you have to exaggerate your round counts. It happens on Facebook, it happens on YouTube, it happens on gun forums, all this other stuff. You don't need to sit there and justify yourself for your purchase, especially by exaggerating these grandiose round counts that we all know are fake. You know, like a lot of us that have run guns a lot, you know, that have put 5,000 and 10,000 rounds through a gun, know what it looks like after 5,000 to 10,000 rounds. So when you're presenting something that looks factory fresh, hint hint, or something that's just a little worn, or even pretty worn, but you're saying, oh, I got 90,000 rounds through it and all the springs are stock. I'm not saying it's not out there, and I'm not saying it's impossible for, well, yeah, it is actually. And there's a story on HK Pro that my good buddy, he had a conversation with an HK armorer, and he was talking about the USP 45 from Federal Ammunition Company. I'll put that in the description. I don't want to go too far in depth, but the frame and some of the metal parts can have ridiculous numbers on them. But I'm telling you right now, those springs are not going to last. And I kind of hate saying this, because the people that are going to bullshit their round counts are going to, you know, hear this and then know what to bullshit, you know. It's kind of like Valor Thieves. They kind of now are getting a few things that we say so they can get so far, and then, you know, it takes people to actually go, hey, Corey AWOL Jackson, the Army doesn't call it boot camp there, bud. See what I'm getting at? So just beware of people that are like, I've got 40,000 rounds through this gun or something like that. You know, especially if they own a lot of guns. Now, if they're somebody that owns 2 guns and they've been to like 8 classes, you can guarantee yourself that they have probably 8 to 10,000 rounds through that gun just on classes alone. And then their personal time too. So they probably have a lot of stuff through there. And if you see it's pretty worn and all that other stuff, sure. But when you start hearing just these grandiose things from somebody who makes way less money than I do, or someone on, you know, whatever, just, you know, sit back and kind of take a hard look at who's saying what, where it's coming from, and all this other stuff. Because I guarantee you that there's a lot of people trying to speak from experience they don't have and lead people in a direction that's not true. And for what? You know, so you get to look cool or be like, no, I'm more experienced than you, bro. I pulled the trigger on this gun way more than you did. So, you know, like, come on. Are you going to tell me that a sniper who's only got, you know, 1,000 rounds through his rifle is, you know, less experienced than you because you've got fucking 15,000 through your AR? Come on, man. And over your lifetime, like if I tallied all the rounds that I shot for the military, like my mandatory military requirements, coupled with what I've shot in my personal life, I don't know. I'd probably be knocking on 100,000, but that's over. I started shooting when I was 12 years old. I'm 31 now. You know, I've been shooting a long time, and I have a lot of guns. So I'm really dragging this out way longer because I'm sure all of y'all got the point by now. And I know some of you are going to get ass hurt, but if you keep a log and let people know, man. Like, do it right. He says, hey, this is my gun at 3,000 rounds, and they're all very reasonable round count numbers, and he keeps a very accurate tally. And I do the same thing. My Mark 25 that I sold back in the day, I knew for a fact, I still have that number etched in my head. I don't have all of them memorized, but I remembered I sold it at 1,307 rounds because I did 2 videos with it and I said the number over and over again. I shot 1,307 rounds through it. That's how many I've shot through a Mark 25, you know? So, and as you become a more experienced shooter, you can shoot guns less to know what they'll do for you. You know, so the longer you shoot ARs, the longer you can pick up a higher quality or a lower quality AR, put a couple mags through it, cycle it a few times, play with the trigger, and just mess with the controls and know what it's going to do for you. Versus when you're younger and you're learning guns, you know, it's kind of, it just happens with experience. It's just an experience thing. If you're not there yet, you're not there yet. Don't sit there and fluff your numbers and bullshit people because they're going to lose respect for you. Just say, hey, look, I got 500 rounds through this, you know? And that does come from a bravado on the internet of, well, you don't have enough rounds through it to talk about it yet. So, and my personal minimum is 1,000 rounds. I try to do 1,000 rounds through a gun before I do a video. But, you know, look, man, you don't have to do all this. You can just sit there and say, do a series or my experiences with my gun, you know? Don't bullshit people. It isn't worth it in the end. There's a silent majority of gun owners that know stuff, and they sit in the shadows on forums and all these other places. They barely post, and they've done it. So when you start talking about it and you miss details or you start putting these grandiose numbers in there, they're going to spot it and they're going to call you out, and people are going to remember your name. So just keep that in mind. And if you're watching the video and you hear a lot of ridiculous round count claims and you look at the like and dislike bar and you're like, wow, you know, other than what he said about the rounds, this kid's got a good video, so I don't know why there's so many dislikes. That's that silent majority I'm telling you about. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Take care of each other, stay safe, and support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.